Okay, I think we're just gonna go ahead and get started, and as people trickle in, I will join them to our video here. Just before I hand over the presentation to Kyle, I think there's a couple new names here today. So I'm Gabby. I'm the Major Games Coordinator at the Manitoba Aboriginal Sports and Recreation Council. I'm the one who's coordinating all of the Manitoba Indigenous Games this year. So I'm the one who's been probably bombarding you with emails and whatnot with information. Before we get started, I'm just going to acknowledge that I'm here in Winnipeg on Treaty 1 territory on the Anishinaabe and the Cree land and the homeland of the Métis Nation. We'll try to keep it a little bit short today. I think it might be a bit of a repetition from last week, but we'll see how things go. This is obviously a pretty new sport, I would say, for our communities. So it's definitely super worthwhile having Kyle here to share his expertise with us. So without further ado, it's all yours, Kyle.
Thanks everybody for being here. So last week we talked about Alaskan high kick and scoring. So today the game of the day is 1 foot high kick. So these are the two games that are included in MIG this year: Alaskan high kick and 1 foot high kick, which I think are really amazing introductions into Arctic sports. And so I'm going to share my slideshow. Let me pull that up. All right. And this slideshow, actually, I can actually send the link for this slideshow, and I think Gabby will also email it out to everybody. But this is the slideshow with both last time's slides over Alaskan high kick and this week's slides on 1 foot high kick. So my goal is just to have a place for really all your resources you need for doing this event for MIG, all in this slideshow. And there's links to the technical handbook within this slideshow that'll be useful once you get started. All right, so 1 foot high kick. All right, so we're gonna go over, I have a short preview video of a documentary called Games of the North. It's on YouTube. I've linked it in here. We're gonna watch just the first 2 minutes or so, just to get a kind of set the mood for our presentation and get a quick introduction and see some visuals of where these games come from. And then I have a how-to video for Alaskan high kick. We'll go over setup real quick again. Some coaching techniques. I have some slow-mo videos that we can critique and see where we can, what type of advice would you give this athlete in this video? And then we can go over scoring and then any questions and answers. It says it at the end, but really ask anytime you like, all right? So this is on YouTube. It's a 25-minute PBS documentary, and I think it was created in 2007. And so it's a bit of an older documentary, but it's still an amazing film. So we're gonna watch the first like 2.5 minutes. Video is restricted. Interesting. Let me try one more time because it wasn't restricted 20 minutes ago. And I'll look for it on, it's on YouTube, Games of the North. But is any, so maybe can we real quick, just Donna and Godfrey, did you want to introduce yourselves just so I can get acquainted with who's here?
Hi, I'm Donna Barker. I'm from Barrows Junction School, north of Swan River, and I'm a teaching principal from nursery to grade 8. Nice to meet you guys.
Thanks. Good to meet you as well.
Hello.
Hi.
This is Godfrey from Blood Vein, First Nations. I teach nursery to grade 9. Nice to meet you guys.
Good to meet you as well. Goodness, cheese for being here. Okay, I'm trying to see if I can get this video. So I'm on the school district Wi-Fi, so sometimes they block random sites. But I might have another one to show.
I have it pulled up here if you want me to share my screen.
Sure, yeah, Games of the North. There's a preview one, which is like 3 minutes, but there's an actual video one, which is a little bit longer. And I think the first 3 minutes of that would be good to show if you want to.
Yeah, for sure.
Share.
Yeah. You guys can see that?
Yep.
Okay. Just let me know if the sound comes through.
I am Inibak. In the unforgiving Arctic, survival depends on agility, strength, and endurance. To hone survival skills and pass time during the long polar winter, the games are created and passed on over generations. Each game links to the past. The high kicks allow hunters to signal across distances. Where breaking ice can take your life in a heartbeat. The games build explosive strength, mental toughness, and focus.
You want to pause? I think the if you do share, if you could reshare and click the share sound, because I think it's like going in and out.
Okay. 1 second.
So
Oh, here it is.
Like stop share, and then when you click share again at the bottom of the share, there should be a button that says share sound on the bottom left side.
I don't see, I thought I had this last week somewhere else.
Yeah, it should be all the way, like when you click share, and then it has that selection of different screens.
Oh, there it is. Okay, I
yeah.
see it now. Okay, should I start over?
Maybe just go like 30 seconds back.
Okay, sounds good.
We kind of heard some of it, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
Where breaking ice can take your life in a heartbeat. The games build explosive strength, mental toughness, and focus. These are the games of the North. In an environment where temperatures can drop to 60 below, the games bring people together to celebrate their culture, build community, and lift spirits during the dark days of winter. They are played in local villages and on the international
endeavor. I mean, it's a personal competition between yourself and nobody else. The link it had for my ancestors was survival, but the link it had for me was to get my culture back.
Carrying the traditions of sport today are exceptional athletes like David Thomas, Jesse Frankson, and Elizabeth Rexford. David lives with his grandmother near Alaska's largest city.
So you could go ahead and pause. So this is going to be in the slideshow, but it's a really great documentary. And if you have time to show your students, it gives really great insight into the games. And it has footage of Arctic Winter Games, which is held between Canada, Alaska, Greenland, Russia, and some Sapmi nations. And so I like that it includes that footage because those are things that youth can possibly participate in at some level. So, all right. So today we're going to look at 1 foot high kick, and let's watch the video, and then I'm going to go into some coaching techniques and how we can start teaching this to our youth. Oops, I forgot to put on the share sound too. All right.
This event is called the 1 foot high kick. Stuart will start by setting up arm's length away from the string with his fingers straight out in front of him. He jumps off of 2 feet, kicks with 1 foot, lands on the same foot that he kicks with, and maintains his balance. So if he kicks with his right foot, he must land on his right foot. The 1 foot high kick should look like this. When he lands, he can stick his landing or he can hop around until he can catch his balance. Now he'll raise the ball about 4 inches at a time. Again, adjusting his distance. As the ball gets a little bit higher, he can also take a step or 2 to adjust. These extra steps give him a little bit more momentum and power out of his jump. There are 2 types of takeoffs. K is jumping into a 2 foot takeoff, exploding straight up, kicking and using her arms to help maintain her balance. Or Stuart here steps into his takeoff, exploding straight up, kicking and using his arms to help maintain his balance. The 1 foot high kick was used as a form of communication. A successful hunting party would send a messenger back towards the village. When the messenger got within sight distance of the village, he would do the 1 foot high kick, signaling to the village that the hunters had been successful.
So 1 foot high kick in this video it was Stuart Twerok was the male demonstrator, and he made it look super easy. He's actually the Arctic Winter Games world record holder. I think it's 117 inches. And so he's a phenomenal athlete, and I don't expect anyone will start there. So we want to start to see where it looks like when athletes begin. All right. So what does it look like for a beginner in the 1 foot high kick, first trying this for their first time? And so I'm going to actually share my screen and give you an example. And then we're going to look at some coaching techniques. So let me take off my background. I have a kickstand right behind me. So you have, and this is, I'm assuming most people are going to be doing this in their gym class, and your equipment is going to be probably a plastic wiffle ball with a string thrown through a basketball hoop or a rafter on the ceiling, whatever you have to hang a ball. And I have a nice sealskin ball. but it doesn't have to be sealskin. I think everyone's getting plastic wiffle balls. The really important thing about any of these games is warm-up. So lead your students through any of your typical warm-ups you do for your gym class when they start any other activity, whether it's a jog or some stretches. Stretching your hamstring is probably the most important area if you're going into any of the kicking games, and that's where you'll see the most injuries is a pulled hamstring or kind of a tweaked hamstring because they tried to overexert themselves by kicking without warming up. And so that warm up is important. And then also starting really low. So we saw Stuart kick really high, and the kids are going to see that video and they're going to want to do something really cool like that. But everybody really needs to start low to the ground, warming up. This is where everybody starts. And so I have it maybe like, I don't know, 1.5 feet off the ground. And athletes are going to start with the standing approach. You are allowed to do a running approach, but really you want to get that standing approach down first. So I'm going to stand in front of the ball and I'm going to measure. So I always tell the kids, what's the first step? And then they're going to tell me measure. So making sure to measure, and this is how you measure. You put your arms out, and you can't really see the string on the Zoom camera, but here's a string. It should be at around your fingers. Fingers to your wrist, that's a good distance to stand. They're gonna start on 2 feet, kick with both feet, and land in 1 foot. Like that. That's the beginning, what it looks like for a beginner. And you're gonna probably see half the kids are gonna fall or not make it on their first kick. That's okay. We're just trying to be really encouraging. This is a new game for them. And so getting that basics, jumping off 2, kicking, landing on 1. And right there, I just barely tapped it. Doesn't matter how hard you kick it. I can kick it really hard if I want. But what really matters in the game is if you touch the ball and then you land. And the landing is the other tricky part. Is we're taking off 2 feet, you're kicking with 1 foot, and you have to land on the same foot you kick with. So this is my kicking foot. If you watch closely, it's going to be the one I land on. And I can hop, catch my balance. In an actual competition, the athlete has to land on 1 foot and show balance before they put the other foot down. With beginners, we're not super strict about it. You might see kids go like this and then just walk away. In an actual strict competition, they would be like, no, you got to show us you balanced on that 1 leg. If they're really little kids and they need like a time limit, say 3 seconds, but it's really just till they look balanced. The game is testing balance as well. And so landing back on that kicking foot. This takes some coordination that even adults have trouble with. And so sometimes we'll do a practice. I'll move the kickstand away. And we'll use a line, maybe a line on the gym floor, or if you have like tape, you can put it on the floor, but I have a blue line here. And a way to practice is first just jump up in the air and see how high they can jump in place, using their arms as momentum. Just like that, jumping up in the air. I'm trying to kind of land back in the general spot. And then next, let's see if they could jump up in the air and land on 1 foot. So jumping off 2, landing on 1 foot. Jumping off 2, landing on 1 foot. This is the whole game, but without the kick. And what they're doing there is building muscle memory of jumping off 2 feet. Because you're gonna get those kids, they're gonna wanna do something like this. And if you can see what I'm doing there, I'm not actually jumping, I'm like switching feet. A lot of kids do that. So getting that muscle memory, jumping off 2, landing on 1. And then later, if they want to try a little kick, and remind them we're not trying to do big kicks or just a little small one. So what I'm going to try to do here is jump off 2, do a really small kick, and then also land behind this line. So it's a little kick, landing behind the line. The line is helpful because we're trying to teach them to kick in place. They're not kicking forward. That's not the object of this game. The object is height. And so they need to learn how to kick in place with their kick going up instead of forward. So this is something you could practice in a gym using the lines on the floor and telling all the kids, try that before they get to the ball. And then once they're at the ball, just starting low, just giving lots of encouragement. They're trying something new and we want them to have fun with it. Having fun is really important for that positive introduction and to encourage them to keep trying it and let them know if they fall the first time, that's okay. And everybody falls. But that's kind of what it's going to look like for a beginner. I have some coaching tips. So often it's easier to teach the 2-foot high kick before 1 foot. So the 2-foot high kick is the same thing, but you're, I'm going to pin my camera so you should be able to see it in the corner. 2 foot is just kicking with both feet, landing on both feet. And the reason that's helpful is because they're going to learn the muscle memory of jumping off both feet instead of jumping off 1 foot. And let them know that jumping off 2 feet is going to benefit them because they're using the power of both their legs. So they got double the power instead of just one leg pushing off, even though there's kind of a tendency with beginners to feel like they can kick higher just jumping off one leg. The other tip, build flexibility. So if you look at the advanced form picture at the bottom, to get in this position takes a certain amount of flexibility. You don't need to be able to do the splits, but flexibility is going to be important. Strengthening the core and legs, as you would think, again, using your legs and jumping, but also the core. Your core is engaged in order to pull your legs up. So you're engaging your core, squeezing your core to pull the legs. It's actually pulling your knee to your chest than kicking. Plyometric workouts are really great where you're doing lots of jumping, box jumps, moving, quick movements. And then a really important tip that we teach our beginners is knee to the chest and flick. So what does that mean? Knee to the chest and flick. So I'm going to show you an example. So this is an example of a beginner kicking. A beginner will often kick with a straight leg. So watch. Kicking, they're jumping, straight leg, which is okay. That's usually how they begin. They're kind of trying to relax and get the feeling. But if I tried to kick something really high with a straight leg, what you're actually doing is making a really big arc to bring my leg all the way up there. You see that arc I'm making? So in order to shorten that arc, because when you jump, you only have milliseconds in the air. I can shorten that arc by bringing my knee up. And then now look at the arc is smaller. And so you can kick much faster by bringing the knee up and then kicking. So that's what we call knee to the chest and then flick. Knee to the chest and flick. And this itself can be a warm-up stretch. Knee to the chest and flick. I'll show you what it looks like. Me actually doing it with a ball and a kick. So at this height, I'm not even going to straighten my leg on the kick. So watch. If you notice, I just jumped and I brought my knee up. At a higher height is when I would start straightening the leg. So I'll show you again. And I've been doing this 12 years. And so just letting you know, once you try it out, sometimes it takes some practice. But so at this height, you saw the knee up, and then I started extending. I didn't even fully extend that time because it wasn't to the height I needed to do that yet. But most kids are going to start with that straight leg, and it's just going to set them off balance too. Because when you think you're bringing your weight out there, you're going to have to counterweight by leaning forward so you don't fall back, right? If you just bring your leg out, you're going to fall back. And so what happens, that leg goes straight out. There's so much weight way out there. You got to counterbalance. And then we're losing our form. We try to teach that early on. Bring the knee up. Even at the lower heights, you can tell the kids, bring the knee up like this. It's almost just like they're They're going like this in the air, stepping. It's also important for your landing and injury prevention. Landing on a straight leg after you kick, you're gonna risk injury, right? But if we can land on a loose, springy leg, that's gonna be your shock absorber. So learning for them to bend at the knee is good for having a safe landing as well. Let's see. Okay, twist the torso and lean back. So if you see this picture, the lower picture, we call advanced form, look at the angle that he's leaning back. And then look at the angle of the beginner form. So in order to do that, what he's doing is he's actually twisting his torso so one side of his body is going back so that his knee can come up in that open space. So if your torso is straight forward, your knee is gonna intercept with your body, right? And you're gonna lose that flexibility because most people can't bring their knee to their chest, right? But if you can pull your chest back, you can get your knee a little bit higher for that kick. And this is advanced form. And so if your kids are new, I wouldn't expect any kids to be able to get this form right away. It takes some practice. There are some naturals out there, but most of the time, beginners, you're not gonna see that form yet, but just at least knowing what it looks like is kind of good. Using the arms is important for momentum in that swing. Pointing the foot. So if you think about, if you're pointing the foot versus flexing it, pointing it, you can get more reach. Always sticking your landing. So I'm gonna go show you what using arms looks like. So as the ball gets higher, your arms are giving you momentum. So you can run up to that ball, come in, this is kind of slow-mo, arms fully extended up to the ball. Beginners, you're gonna see arms bent, they're gonna kick like that. They're kind of stunting their arm momentum without fully swinging them. So that's another coaching tip, is really using the arms in that kick. Sticking your landing, this is what we mean by sticking your landing. Hop. Hop, or even if you don't think you got it, stick your landing, because in a competition setting, let's say you raise the hairs on the balls and the official saw you graze just these sealskin hairs here, then it would count as long as you landed it. But if there's an athlete that, oh, I didn't get it, I'm gonna just forget my landing and walk away, they're not gonna get that score, that point. So I always just tell my athletes, no matter what, it's good to practice your landing. Even if you know you didn't get it, you might have got it, or in general, it's just a good habit to have. Okay. Take off closer to the ball. So as the ball gets higher, your takeoff is going to be closer and closer to the ball. So let me show you measuring again. You can measure arms or fingers or hands to the string. This is where I'm going to take off. But what if the ball is really high? Can't even see the ball, but you're still going to measure to the ball like that. And so you can see if the ball's here is where I'm going to take off. And as it gets higher, you take off closer. So I have a video of an athlete, and he's one of my athletes. He joined last fall, and this is a video of him maybe about 2 months into the sport. And he's actually pretty athletic. He's doing pretty good for being 2 months into the sport, but here's a clip. So we're gonna watch this clip, and I take a lot of slow-mo videos of my athletes because it's useful, it's fun to watch. you can send it to them and they can have this little visual thing to show, hey, look what I can do, and show their parents and be proud. But it's also a really good way to analyze their movement and to build their own body awareness, because sometimes they're kicking and they're not aware of what their body's actually doing. So let's watch this video and think about, if I were coaching this athlete, what's some coaching advice I would give? It's a really short video. I'm gonna click it. So his name is Alex. Can anyone think of maybe some coaching advice you'd give Alex? And I know it's if you're not used to the sport, you look at it and he kicked the ball, he landed, it was perfect. He would move on to the next round. That was a successful kick.
Does it seem like he's taking off too far away from the ball?
Yep, so he is taking off too far away. So what happens, if we watch again, is he's reaching forward to kick that ball instead of up. And so he could have probably got a lot more height if he was closer to the ball, but he was also need that flexibility to be able to bring his leg up. So, yep. I'm gonna go to the next slide. And these are my
should his arms be?
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. Should his arms be more extended when he comes up? Like, should they be straight?
Yep, good observation. So let's watch his arms. Bent, yep. So his arms weren't fully utilized in this kick. He kind of went like that. Instead of really swinging your arms, you're gonna get momentum into your kick. So yeah, good observations. So here's the critiques I would give. And number one, most important would be to say great job, because they did a great job. I think that's the most important thing as a coach, is to give that encouragement. They're trying something new. I didn't join this sport until I was 17 years old. And I knew about it pretty much my whole life because my dad was an athlete. I grew up at the games, watching them, but I never thought I was good enough to do them. And it really took 17 years to find the confidence, the courage to join. And I continued on because I had that encouragement. And so just acknowledging that it takes a lot to try something new, and kids are taking risks when they try something new. So just that encouragement is always number one for me. And then the advice comes next. And so some of you already mentioned that. Jump closer to the ball so you're not reaching forward. Fully extend the arms. The arms are also going to come back down on your kick. So you throw the arms to get your momentum in your jump, and your leg comes up, and to counterbalance, you throw your arms down. And that's something that kind of comes with time. So I just mostly have them focus on throwing their arms than actually thinking about what their arms are doing in the air, because then that gets a little bit tricky. Bring the knee to your chest. So he did a pretty good job. He brought his knee up first. He could have brought his knee up further, but that's going to probably take some increase in flexibility. And so if you could see, I did a little stick figure and I drew over this image of, if we perfected his form, you could see the increase. This blue line, this blue represents the ball. So without increasing his vertical jump, he could have kicked a ball at this height. And so you could see, one, the ball is a lot closer to him. So where he took off, he should have been kicking a ball that was like 6 inches closer to him. And you could see the leaning back, the leg is up, so the arms are down, counterbalancing. That this would have been like the, if he could achieve that form, he could kick almost a foot higher, which is huge. Like at my point in my career, if I can get like a 1/4 inch higher, I've been doing the games 12 years. And so you kind of, in the beginning, you kind of have exponential growth, and they'll, maybe in a whole season, they'll increase their height by 1 foot, 2 feet. But after that, it's like you're gaining maybe a couple inches per year. So there's exponential growth, and then it kind of tapers down, and it's slow growth where you're really fine tuning things. And but yeah, he has so much potential. Without increasing his vertical jump, he could kick a ball at this height if he were to follow all these coaching critiques and get them down. But really just takes time and practice. And so I was super proud of him, and he was super proud. That was actually a moment where he hit PR, a personal record. And so we recorded that date and that time and the height, but also being able to look at the video and see where they can improve is helpful. So stretching is really important, and high kicking, hamstrings and hip flexors are really important, but really the full body. So building flexibility. I have a short video clip here, like 2 seconds of a stretch kick that we do. And so watch this video. We do dynamic stretches where we go from one side of the room to the other side of the room doing various different stretches. And so this is what we call our 1 foot high kick stretch kick. And so you'll see the athletes are gonna bring the knee to the chest and flick.
It's about kicking a ball.
Knee to the chest and flick, just like that. And that's the only clip I had of it, but kind of get the idea. And so they alternate both legs, knee to the chest and flick. And I'll show you that too. So they can do it with arms or without arms. They can just go kick, kick, and keep going across the room. Obviously, most people are not going to start with that much flexibility like I am doing. If they want to integrate the arms, you start with the arms up, kick, and bring them down on the kick. But it gets a little bit complicated. If they're just learning it, just have them focus on the legs. Knee up and kick. That's a good stretch kick. And you'll notice speed plays a role in this too, because I'm pretty flexible. But if I'm just to stand here and lift my leg up, right here it starts getting really hard to bring it any higher. But if I go really fast, that momentum keeps my leg going. And part of that is a huge part of that is flexibility too, so they're not hurting themselves. But speed and flexibility are also important. So these are my coaching tips, and really these coaching tips are pretty advanced. Most athletes, it takes time and practice, and it's just a lot of trial and error, them figuring out their bodies, their coordination, and not holding too high of an expectation for themselves. You gotta let them realize, yeah, everybody starts down here. You might see these YouTube videos of people kicking really high, but everyone really starts down low. They started at a lower height when they first started the games. And so trying to give them that realistic expectation. If they got it at a height of 1 foot, that's good. They're just learning the game. But any questions? Okay. So
It's about kicking a ball.
it's going to go into scoring a little bit. So this is what a score sheet looks like. And there's a score sheet included with the technical package, I believe. There's also a linked this exact type of score sheet here in an Excel sheet. And in an event, so in MIG, it's similar to an actual competition. They get 3 tries at each height, and the ball goes up in regular intervals. And at each new interval, they get their 3 tries again. And it's kind of like three strikes, you're out if they don't happen to get it in those 3 tries. And so you'll have a score sheet, names, you can put name, team. You do want to show if they're male or female, but the standard recording process is an X for a hit. So Matt here at 50 inches, he got it his first try, 54 his first try, 58 his first try. On 62, he had his first miss. We draw a line, and then he got it on his second try. The ball got to 64 inches. Matt had 3 misses. You could see the lines through the circles, and he's out. Joe here as well, he got out at a height earlier. And so if this, normally you're gonna have more students, but maybe not. If you have 2 students, it would be Matt that took first place because he successfully kicked 62 inches, the highest height, and Joe got second place. If we had a tie, and let's say Matt and Joe both hit 62 and got out at 64, then we look at the misses. So you can see on the right-hand side here, we count number of misses. And so whoever has less misses would take that placement. And there's more details in the technical package about figuring out tiebreakers. Any questions on this? I recommend pencil because there's going to be mistakes, erasing and rewriting in the height if you got it wrong, or maybe you missed and he actually got that on his second try and he looked away and something like that. So pencil is always best. We use a highlighter as well to highlight from the height they got out on. And it just makes a cleaner score sheet, because if you have a lot of athletes, you're going to have a lot of pencil marks all over the place, and there's all these circles, and you look at it and your eyes kind of just blur out. And so the highlighting across from the height they got out at makes it really clean. And then when you look back at it, you can see exactly where they got out at, who had the highest heights. And so highlighting is helpful. Recording the official's or scorekeeper's name is helpful in case you are not the actual scorekeeper, but you're determining the awards. Maybe you can't read the score sheet, or there's an error and you need to ask whoever was on that score sheet. Starting heights. Here are the starting heights, which are also in the technical package. And so, for example, a female 13 and under is going to start at a height of about 2 feet, or 2 feet. They're going to start at 2 feet. Male is 2.5 feet. And so there's different starting heights. 16 and under, 19 and under have the same starting heights. But just because this is the starting height, they can start lower and do their warm-up rounds. They can start lower in practice. And then once they get to 2 feet, this can be the official where you start scoring. And so at 2 feet, you would write on this score sheet right there where it says 50 inches, it would actually say 24 inches. That would be your starting height. Sometimes they go through the entire score sheet, and then you need to get a new score sheet and transfer their name over just so you can continue on with the height. So I recommend printing out quite a few of them. These are the starting heights. There are some athletes that get out on the first height, and so that's how come I recommend just doing that warm-up height to feel like they had a chance to participate without getting eliminated right when they started. The intervals are 3 inches. So it goes up 3 inches per round. Once you get down to what might be considered the finals, 4 or less, it moves by 2 inches. And then if you have 1 or 2 athletes left, then they can move by 1 inch. So as the ball gets higher and higher, it gets more and more challenging. And so we slow down the height of the ball. So turns, how it works, so the starting height is 24 inches. If you have a group of students, they all do their 24 inches and then they move on to the next height. So it isn't like Matt goes every single height until he's out. You have every athlete go at that height and then it raises to the next height. So usually they have a little break between heights where they can stay warmed up. This is tie breaking, which I mentioned is number of misses. If they have the same number of misses, and then it's whoever had the first miss at the lower height. If they're still tied, then you can honor that tie and award a tie position. They're doing both a school level. There's both school level, and then I believe Gabby is going to be looking at score sheets from across all the schools to do a region-wide award as well.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm gonna go back a little bit just to show equipment. So equipment, basketball hoop, high kick stand if you have one. So here's an example. We have a string through a hoop. There's a little dumbbell here. You could tie it on a chair leg and you move the weight further back to increase the height. A ladder might be helpful as if you have those athletes kicking really high, and generally if you're judging, you want to be at the same height as the ball in case they just barely graze the bottom of the ball. You can let them know and call it a successful kick if they landed it too. Measuring tape. Yeah, so basic, not too many items needed for the high kick games. And then we do sell equipment. So if this is something your school becomes really interested in and they want to continue on, we sell equipment. So this is an example of one of our portable kickstands that folds and fits in a carrying bag, which is really nice if you don't have the gym. Or, I mean, you could still use it in the gym, but if you want more stations for kickstands or to be away from the basketball hoop, sometimes the ball does get tangled in a basketball hoop, and that's another reason to have a ladder is to untangle it. But something like this, you're not going to see as much tangling in the string. And we sell these. There's other equipment we sell. There's several different types of wooden dowels that are used for various different games. The sealskin kicking ball is kind of a nice piece to have an actual like traditional type of kicking ball would be sealskin. I've linked on here a Google Doc on how to make a wood kickstand. If you were interested in having your students or just maybe someone who knows how to woodwork, create your own kickstand, we've included dimensions and details on how to make your own. And lastly, I wanted to finish with sharing the world records. So our games go back hundreds, if not thousands of years, but since 1961, with the first year of the World Eskimo Indian Olympics, we've been recording records. And so a world record can be set at the World Eskimo Indian Olympics, at Arctic Winter Games, and at the Native Youth Olympics. Those are like the three major events for this sport that exist today. Hopefully the North American Indigenous Games will be the next big venue for this sport. But here's an example. This is on the left is Tim Field. He's from Norvik and he kicked a height of 2.97 meters. And then Melanie Curtis on the right, she is from Alberta. And in Arctic Winter Games 2014, she kicked a height of 94 inches. So really spectacular heights. I like to share these. I just think they're inspirational. Down below, we have state records. And those are Alaska state records. So these are high school students. So the heights are actually only a few inches lower, but kind of gives you an idea of different age levels. And then if you attended my presentation at the PE conference, I talked about this individual. His name is Jesse Frankson, and he was an athlete in the early 2000s, and he used to be the world record holder for the 1 foot high kick. And so I have a picture of him here on the left, in the bottom left. He's from the village of Point Hope. So if you look on the map here, there's a little red dot. That's where Jesse Frankson is from. It's a pretty far-flung place, a small village in the Arctic. And he lives a subsistence lifestyle. He's a hunter. Right here, he's on his boat. And so he lives a pretty traditional lifestyle, including practicing these games. And he set the world record for 1 foot high kick in the early 2000s. And he was soon after contacted by the Guinness Book of World Records, and they wanted to set up a competition with another individual who actually was the one that was requesting to set the record. His name was Michael Blanks. And he was like a famous fitness guru in LA, really well known. His brother was Billy Blanks, the creator of Taibo. And so they invited Jesse Frankson down to LA to do a show in front of a live audience that would be aired on TV, showing a world record being set. And it's such a great story I like to share with the kids because really they underestimated Jesse Frankson. He was kind of a nobody from a small village in Alaska. He didn't have any personal trainer, or he didn't have any fancy state-of-the-art gym to train in. He was just a village boy living off the land as a hunter, practicing his traditional games. And this other guy was very well recognized as a fitness guru, a martial artist. The other guy came wearing this spandex kind of outfit, well-fitted fitness outfit, and Jesse came in kind of shorts and a baggy shirt. And what he did end up not being what the producers expected. He outkicked Michael Blanks and took the world record for the highest martial arts kick at 9 feet 8 inches. And it still stands in the Guinness Book of World Records to this day. And it just really goes to show that there's not one way to practice fitness. And there's many fitness fads that come and go, but I think our traditional ways have proven themselves of being a healthy way to live, living off the land, eating our traditional foods, practicing our traditional games. And this was a way that Jesse Frankson showed the world that our traditional games are really world-class and our athletes are world-class. And so I think it's a very proud moment for Indigenous people of the North to see their athletes, or this athlete highlighted in this way, being a world record holder. Yeah, and he kicked in his traditional style. He kicked in the style I showed today. And in this competition, they could kick in any style they like, and he chose the style of his ancestors, the 1 foot high kick style. And that's what got him a world record. And so great story. He at one time held 4 world records in these games. And so another really great thing about these games is Indigenous youth have Indigenous heroes to look up to. Jesse Frankson was a hero in Alaska, and our Indigenous youth could look up to Jesse Frankson. He had 4 world records in the games, and he was just a spectacular inspiration. And he was Indigenous. He was like the students we have here. I mean, he's of the same culture. And so just that representation, that connection, they're looking within their own culture for their models and inspiration. And so Jesse Frankson is a really great story. I think he's in his 40s now, so he's not as involved in the games today. And then the last thing I wanted to include in here is just to note about the North American Indigenous Games. And I think the MIG is taking an important step in introducing Arctic sports into the North American Indigenous Games by getting youth involved with MIG and incorporating Arctic sports within their regional event, so that come 2024, which is hopefully the next one, we plan to include Arctic sports within this competition. And so we're starting the introduction today. This is the beginning. This is the road to North American Indigenous Games and getting our Arctic sports included in this competition or this event. Just makes sense because this is an event that highlights Indigenous people and culture and sports, and Arctic sports is one of those sports. So I just wanted to include that as you begin to teach these games, there's kind of a longer term goal is bringing this into North American Indigenous Games, and some of the youth you might be working in, maybe in four years, maybe they become really inspired with their participation in MIG, and then they get the chance in 4 years to participate in the same high kick games at this event. But any questions?
Yeah. We have started the one foot high kick here in Blood Vein, but my problem is most of my students have big bodies. So they are hard to jump.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah,
anyway,
and
we have started. They just kick the ball.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So Usually, I mean, in Arctic sports, there's a whole variety of games, and I like to say there's a game for everybody because not everybody is a agility high kicker, and we do have a whole group of strength games that suit different body types, whether you're more of a strength type of person. So I might suggest also introducing those, like the Inuit stick pole. There's videos online along with these agility games. But I've been impressed. We've had some athletes that were not the expected high kicker athletes, but they did pretty well. One of my memories of Junior Native Youth Olympics, which is an event we have here in Alaska for grades 1st through 6th grade, super cute, have little kids kicking. But there was this little boy who was much more heavier than all of his peers. And you could tell he didn't have a lot of confidence, and he wasn't really the expected athlete to excel, but he ended up doing really well. And he outkicked a lot of the other boys. And it's not all about strength or body type, it's technique and training. And you could just tell, I remember seeing he got a height that most of his peers didn't get. And he just looked in the audience and he looked at his parents and smiled, and it was just a really nice moment to see that pride on his face and that realizing he could do something that he may have not thought he could. So I try to encourage everybody to try a variety of different games because they never know which game they'll connect with and find out they can actually do.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions?
None from me. This was awesome.
We just started here using the basketball hook.
Good.
Nice.
Kyle, really liked the story that you shared about Jesse. It is, I mean, like you said, it's super cool to be able to relate to someone who plays that role model within your community, within your culture. So thank you for sharing that story.
Yeah. All right, I appreciate everyone joining. Goodness Cheesh. I enjoy sharing the games, and so really feel free to reach out to me. I think Gabby's going to send the link, and feel free to reach out to me as well. I've been involved with these games 12 years, and they've really been influential in my life and bringing me closer to my community, my culture, my family, building up my self-confidence and wanting to live a healthy life within my community. And so I jump at any opportunity to share this and hopefully provide this opportunity for other youth from really anywhere. And so thanks for being here and taking the time out of your late afternoon there. I'm here in Juneau, Alaska. It's still 2 p.m.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kyle. Yeah, like you said, it's so wonderful learning from you. And thank you so much for sharing all of your experience and your knowledge with us. Like I mentioned to you before, I think I'll be facilitating some of our high kick, some of these events that you're sharing with our staff. So I'm going to have to make a lesson plan with all of these tips that you're giving us. And I'll make sure to share photos with everyone. But I think that's everything for today. I will be sending out the recording of this Zoom presentation, as well as linking the PowerPoint and any video clips that Kyle shared with us. So you guys will all receive that to your inboxes in the morning.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, thank you very much.
Perfect.
Goodness Cheesh. Have a good day.
Have a great rest of your day, guys.
Bye.
Thanks, Gabby.
No problem.